Yeah, the
Yep.
oil. That's been confusing me, but I'm like, there seems like there could be something to this, man. So I really like it when you start getting into that kind of stuff, because it kind of leads me in a whole different direction.
I appreciate it. Once you start seeing the lab work behind it, that's when shit really gets magical, when you really actually just see what happens. You know, there's no denying it at that point. And then when you start carrying that over to everything else.
Yeah, it seems like there could be a lot of application there for that.
Yep, because the oil opens up the salt, because obviously the salt as a hard crystal is not usable for anything. And so the oil is actually what's opening the salt, the same as like voltage is opening amperage. The amperage is where your power's at, but the voltage is what makes that usable.
So when you say it's opening it, you mean it's sort of like breaking it down and sort of, I guess, in a way, melting it? Is that kind of what you mean? Oh yeah.
Yep. And then now it's bioavailable. You can incorporate that into your body.
Yeah.
Or the big experiment that I'm working on that I don't talk about a whole lot because I'm working on it as an experiment is there's a cymatics, a language written into the salt. And we should be able to read it. And because you're able to only see that when the salt is opened up with fluid, then I also think that you can overwrite and put your own things into the salt through the fluid.
Right. Kind of like every time you say that, it kind of makes me think of, it kind of makes me envision like a crystal matrix. I think even James had mentioned that in the past before, where, you know, it's like I sort of think of a big crystal matrix that just stores a bunch of information.
Exactly. And the key is opening it up, but that needs to be done through fluid.
Gotcha.
Because as it's sitting there hard, we can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to meditate on all that. I've been meditating on that. I've kind of been looking for ways to apply it, but I haven't got there yet. I haven't. Yeah, it's been a learning thing.
You bet. Well, and then what really is interesting, like I said, is when as an alchemist, when you get to the epitome of both of them, where you get to the epitome of the oil and then the epitome of the salt, and then you chemically marry them, now they're the same fucking thing. They aren't even opposites anymore. And so when you hit it with fire, it'll actually vaporize, rise up, and then fall down and be exactly what it was to begin with.
Yeah, just kind of in that equilibrium point in the middle.
Yeah. So it's amazing. You know.
I just thought of a way to apply that. It was kind of what James was talking about earlier today in his live stream. James, I'm sure you remember when you were talking about the people with masks on and how you were sort of thinking of the different ways of how to say I don't understand you, as in I don't understand you in the way that I can't read your lips. And you use that intention as you say it. And then the other way of intending it is I don't understand you in the way of I just don't understand why you're even wearing a mask to begin with.
Right.
Because there's just things you're not comprehending. And I guess that would be a way of pulling that information out of the salts.
Right.
And sort of melting it down and bringing it into your framework and incorporating it that way. Am I kind of on the right track?
I like it. Absolutely. Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Michael, do you have those schematics nearby?
Yes.
That you've been doing? Okay. Before you do that, I want to, I was waiting for Joe, and I know Joe wants to be here. I think he's maybe got some kind of issue. And I didn't go on anymore without introducing everyone to Salvatore. I've got you muted right now, but it's only because I'm encouraging people to stay muted until they're talking. But you should be able to unmute yourself. Can you hear us, Salvatore?
I can hear you. Hello?
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, 10-4. How you
All right.
guys doing?
Great. We can't see you yet. Can you turn on your video, or would you rather stay up?
I'm kind
Oh, it might be too slow.
cutting out.
Yeah, you can leave it off.
Hold on a second. I see here.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Are you guys having the same trouble I am, where it's a lot of breakup?
Yeah, I'm
breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're waiting for Joe, let me get. We're not going to wait for Joe. Hopefully he'll join us though. Try and manage your mute button when you can, and anything's allowed to say anything at all. I am not streaming this right now. What I'm doing is I'm recording it, and I actually cannot stream Zoom right now. It's an issue with my password account. I can't even pay the balance to kind of fix it. It's kind of a pain. But what I wanted to do was experiment with this idea of hosting these kind of virtual campfire things where we're discussing things. And Joe is really into this idea too. I know it's just something weird that he's not here right now, but Joe actually kind of would like to be the facilitator of this. I think he's able to put the time into it. He's done a lot of work. He works a lot with networking and whatnot. So this is kind of up his alley. And the idea is that as men, we owe responsibility to the land, and we have different ways we can express that obligation. And maybe by us coming to talk in a certain framework, in a certain style, that it could be used as a model that could branch and create several other models that could be used. And this would be this idea of the live stream. I know I'm not live streaming this one, but again, it's because of this limitation with Zoom. And also I have to let things breathe on my channel. I've just been really wanting to work as much as possible. And I just did a video a few hours ago, so I need to let that breathe. With that said, I used to work in a setting in the wilderness with campfires with a tribe. They happen to be teenagers, but this is an adult thing too. And basically you assemble around a campfire. One of us could be hosting the campfire and actually have their camera set up that day and filming the live campfire so we could actually see that. And then the rest of us would basically just be showing ourselves and discussing things. What we discuss is basically each of us would bring something to the campfire. This is your sacrifice to the fire. And you would take something away from the campfire. What that would basically mean is what you would bring is maybe something you consider a gnosis, maybe something you consider a question or a problem or a parable, or even a stomping. And that would be what you're bringing. And then what you're taking, basically it depends on how you look at it, but the idea is here is fellowship. You get the juice from everyone else, their feedback involved, and the whole time we're also using this as an echo for other people that want to listen. They either don't have the technology or are not yet budding, that are still budding into this process of the apocalypse, basically what's happening. This is what I've always seen happening on a campground setting, but I think if we could start it now in a virtual way, it could really be powerful. These campground ideas that I see would be all across the country. It wouldn't be my campground. All of us would have these different sort of spots, these neurons of the land that are lit with fire. And these neurons are now connected through this ceremony of this campfire that all of us are starting right now. If you're interested, that what we're doing here is beginning that. We are lighting the first neuron, and we're hoping that other neurons will pop up. So this is sort of an experimental circle where we would be playing with how this format would work. In a sense, there's almost a talking stick sort of thing where someone has the fire, has the floor. There's also a fire tender. Someone would actually be responsible for tending the fire. I think it'd be really important if we actually had a live fire and one of our cameras was focused on that fire, depending on whoever was hosting the fire that night. Anyway, I'm springing all this on you, all of you. I haven't really spoken about this to any of you before, so I don't expect there to be a unanimous even, like of it or favor of it. So don't even feel like you even have to answer yes or no. But I'd like to just tell you that that's sort of what I wanted to talk about. And if you have any feedback on that, I'd love to hear it. And, yeah, so I open the floor to anyone who has anything to say. And you might be muted.
So I attend sacred bloats fairly often. And one of the big things is when you start the bloat, you walk around in a circle 3 times, once for each mind, once for each level. No matter how you want to look at it, it's 3 times. And we're trying to call in the spirits of dense beings, the titans, the gods. So when you're looking at a sacrifice, the fact is if I invited James and you other gentlemen over to my house, I would automatically bring some meat out, a little bit of food, some smoke, whatever it is that you think is good. And obviously I wouldn't ask you guys to come over and hang out without providing such things. So that is the sacrifice. So, and then typically there's as a heathen anyways, we do 3 rounds with the ceremonial mead horn. Yes. And yeah, this is mead, actual ceremonial mead and mead horn. And then after each round, the first round goes to the All Father and the gods. And then the second round, more about whatever the theme of the day is. So with us, we're trying to wake the titans, trying to talk to the dense gods, wake the masculine, the return of the king, the reforging of the sword. So that would be what your second round would be more dedicated to. And then the third round's just for you personally, your personal tie-in to such a thing. And then the sacrifice gets thrown into the fire. I'm at a city park, so I just brought a little incense burner thingy. And then you tell a little story, talk about the subject matter, drink some more, and then walk around the circle 3 times and call it a day.
Right on. Clockwise.
Is there an version of mead? Non-alcoholic mead?
I drink. This is alcoholic mead. I'm actually not a drinker myself, so I only drink it ceremonially. So in the portion of when everybody's sitting around just drinking, I'm usually the one smoking. Okay. I do smoke like a chimney, but I don't drink. But this is just a simple honey mead. Actually, most your cosmologies that have a prohibition against the fermentation of grain and such do not have the same prohibition against the fermentation of honey. So ceremonial honey mead.
It is the fermentation though.
Yep, I mean, it is a fermentation. It's a light fermentation. Heathens throughout history, like right now, they're painted as a bunch of drunks. But the deal was it is a light fermentation. So if you take your fruit or your grains or whatever, and you lightly ferment them with honey, you get a low alcohol preserve. So this can sit on a shelf all year long and where you don't have refrigeration, and you still get all the nutritional value out of whatever type of foods you're having. So it could be more like a kimchi type thing. But yep, there is definitely a fermentation here. It takes about a year because it's a fermentation with honey, unless there's a few different things you can do to get your yeast to activate and populate much quicker. But if you're going old school style, it takes the better part of a year to get this to ferment out.
That's cool how long the sacrifice takes. It takes a year for it to ferment. That's cool.
I've been assembling these magical items, and I really like that you presented that mead horn, because one of them is my father's. He's got a bullhorn. It sits on my dresser along with other items, and now I know what to do with it. But these magical items, these personal items, like I started this 9 years ago, and I acquired all these magical items and all these rituals, being tobacco. We rolled our own tobacco, and I had a Red Elk leather tobacco pouch made, and I had a sigil put on it. But it was always a sacrifice, a pinch of tobacco before I ever rolled a cigarette or anything like that. Those things have since somewhat faded away, but now I'm coming back to them, right? So, James, you're talking about the 19 stomps.
Yeah.
And I incorporated my own, I'm north. I do like the Black Elk type. I do the north, east, south, west stomp. That's what I do. But my question to Ben, since you're the most experienced in this, is most of this intent? Are these rituals you developed for yourself? Is it the intent where the power is? Is that it, or are these actual rituals kind of have to be a certain way, like the way you described them?
They don't. So most of the things I do, I just do because that's what I've chosen.
Yeah.
I'm an Odinist as compared to like Asatru. Asatru has a prescribed, and there's Joe. Asatru has a prescribed ritual set. So when you're talking about the 4 directions, that's pretty standard. Anytime the more knowledge you can put into the ritual, the better it's going to work out. So when you're looking at the 4 cardinal directions, it's either the 4 winds. I'm a heathen, so as a heathen, the firmament, basically the dome, which is the skull of Ymir,
Nice.
is being held up by 4 dwarves. So, and then Jormungandr holds in the world, and holds up the dome. So this is what you're giving credence to, is the 4 directions, the 4 winds, and that's fairly common in any type of format. And then the rest of it, just as you start, I'm left-hand path rather than right-hand path. So I'm trying to put as very little of my own things into this. There are places that have prescribed rituals, but even under those, when you start just doing the prescribed ritual without understanding the intent and the mechanics behind the ritual, that's where things really start going wrong. So the more that you can understand why you're doing whatever it is you're doing in the ritual, like when I'm walking around 3 times, I'm walking a circle, I'm making a vortex, I'm making a sacred space. I'm doing it 3 times because there's 3 levels. There's the oil level, the earth level, and the salt level. And all of them are right here. All of them are in me. And I'm answering to all of them. And then when you're doing the 4 directions, that's, the 4 directions or the 4 dwarves. This is a very common thing, no matter how you're looking at it. The 4 seasons, even, you could look at it as. So every different mechanic that you're doing, just understand why you're doing it. Don't just blindly do anything, because what fucking difference does it make at that point?
Yeah, you're exactly in the procedure. If you just follow, there's a difference between reading a script and acting a part. These are 2 totally different things. A nurse will follow a procedure. You don't want to follow a ritual. Your magic's going to be dampened because it's not going to have your belief plasma behind it. This is all This is all about belief. That's why it works for Benjamin to do 3 levels. Look at it as the geometry. If you're going to sacredly create a space around you, it would make sense that you would naturally point in all directions and declare, this is my circle, this is my circle, this is, even if it's a square, you're still creating, it could be a pentagram, it could be a triangle. There's nothing evil or good about any of the shapes. They're just geometry, you know, that we use. So it really comes down to like deep belief. What do you believe that 3 is the way to go? Because that's when your plasma starts to amp upon itself. It's kind of like when you're turning a wheel, you can catch it and make it go faster if you hit it just right. But if you hit it with the wrong rhythm, it'll make it slow down. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. So your belief is going to build. It's going to build. Like, just as an example, not to take over a bit what Ben's saying, just as an example. When I found out that humanity is not a virus, is 19 letters, it was like it got this jolt of electricity that came after the fact. I didn't plan that, but when I discovered it, it acted as a double bounce on a trampoline. So it's all about that kind of stuff. Joe is here, and I'm really glad to see you, buddy. And I also need to tell you guys something. Unfortunately, my Zoom account is only going to allow a 40-minute meeting, and then it's going to shut off. And I was hoping maybe Joe could host this because he might be able to do that longer. But I just want you guys to know that we will be cut off, and that's why, unless we either convert to another platform or just make this a short first-time introduction and go from there. So I'll just throw that out too. And I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about the limitation here.
Hey, James, I wanted to ask you a question to clarify something.
Uh-huh.
As far as this goes, are we looking at, are you talking about we're going to do this from a virtual angle, or are you looking to actually establish this in different parts of the country through this first, what we're doing now, and then have it grow into that?
I'd rather it be established in a physical way. That's why, as long as there's at least one fire being filmed, I think that you still have the same plasma that's put into it. So basically, I'm looking to do, if we create it in the virtual first, that's very much like a wizard would cast a spell. He would first see it in his mind, and then that would be the internet. And then when he plants it in the world, with the fire, that's putting it into the world. And then hopefully it would grow and take off from there, basically.
Well, our prana Zoom last night, I set forth the fire, and I just put my camera in front of it for everybody.
Awesome.
So that was, Andrew was there, everybody was there, Nisha, and I made sure the fire was there. That's just intuition. So it's happening.
Perfect. Right. I get that completely. The reason I was asking that, the way I was kind of approaching it was I guess kind of trying to get people locally to come, and that, if I was running it, let's say hypothetically, and I got people locally to come, a friend brings a friend, all people with this right intention, and then filming it, and then anyone who wants to come can come online digitally. Is that kind of what you're looking to do? Am I saying this the right way?
Yeah, what I'm really hoping is that each person will become their own one of 19, and then they would adapt the style that fits best with their technology, their limitations, who's around their area, and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, fantastic, cool.
Sacred fire in all kinds of ways achieved, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ben.
A thought on Benjamin's honey mead. Honey kind of seems like it would be a halfway point or an equilibrium between salt or a crystal and an oil, would it not?
Absolutely, because it's different than most every other sugar because it's pulled directly from the pollen of the flower. And here we got some more sacrifice.
Nice. And related to what Aaron was saying a while ago about offering that pinch of tobacco as a sacrifice, it's sort of just kind of putting something out there to kind of tap into the extra energy you need to make it work. And to that, I've had situations in my life where one period in my life in particular, when I was doing a lot of I had just moved back to town and I was looking for a job, and I was looking to get into a specific field. And in the beginning, I had to just kind of take jobs here and there until I was able to move into something better to where I was getting where I was going. But anyway, at the time, I was doing a lot of running and working out, and to the point of exhaustion. And I was also, at the same time, I was also doing these meditations where I would hold the thoughts and feel the feelings of having the job that I wanted. And so, you know, I had the thoughts, I had the feelings. And number three, I put forth the actions, which was the sacrifice, which was going out almost every day and just running myself, working myself out to exhaustion. That was my sacrifice of energy to the ritual. And the whole thing became a ritual at one point to where I was basically living the ritual. I was always thinking about these things, always feeling these things. And I would make it a point every day to go work out and put forth that energy. And man, I tell you guys, like that, as soon as I started doing that, things started taking off for me. These opportunities just started falling in my lap. Like I would just find myself in situations where I was just like that, like this just, you know, this, I don't see how this would have happened otherwise. Like it just became too easy. Life became too easy, where I ended up where I wanted to be within about a year and a half. And it was a steady progression where just one thing happened at the other. I just kept climbing the ladder. And when I look back at it, I was like, you know, that it couldn't have been anything else but that daily ritual. Because it's just the opportunities just started presenting themselves. And I mean, of course I had to be there to step into that role. It required a bit of action on my part. But I don't think the opportunities, and the opportunity is the key word there, I don't think the opportunity would have presented itself had I not done that.
That is so beautiful. And I just want to reemphasize, I think that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier.
Yep.
By saying the opposite of procedure. It wasn't, in fact, I'm hearing it now as you're burning calories, what you're thinking about, what you're attracting yourself to, what you've done is you've harnessed the sacrifice of all those calories. Those calories are your sacrifice. And that's freaking right on, man. I've never even tried that. I love it. I love the approach.
It works.
And I
totally works.
I love the running also, because you described that as a sacrifice. I would have said your time was the sacrifice overall in the endeavor, whether it was the meditating, the running, or whatever. With the running, though, you're getting your dense mind activated, your masculine mind into it. It's not just sitting and thinking. You're putting actual density into it, power.
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort. You have to just power. I mean, when you're running long distances in particular, you have to just power through it. That's all it takes, is just mind over matter at that point. It's just telling your body to shut up and just get with it. Just plow through it. But yeah, so it's a definite masculine thing happening there.
Perseverance too. So there's always gonna be something to test you.
Right.
Well, that's what makes the sacrifice worth it. You know, I think that's really what it comes down to, is what kind of effort are you putting in? If it hurts, if it burns, if it's difficult, if you're harnessing the energy correctly, you should be sacrificing at ultimate capacity. You should be casting the most electricity by the amount of effort you feel yourself putting into it. Look at muscle building, look at weightlifting, look at strength training, look at all those things. If you go in and just phone it in, that's a much different result you're going to have versus if you're truly focusing. Look at HIIT, right? High impact.
I love it.
Exactly. But look at how much faster that works on a shorter time frame. Mm-hmm. Again, it's a burstable will. It's a burstable. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying it's a squeezing of it out. You know, you're in the position and you're trying as hard as you can in that kind of way.
I like that you had two sides to it too. It's the feminine is always the open. That's especially going with that electrically. The more thought you can put into it, the more voltage you have. Mm-hmm. Then the more masculine side you put into it, the more power you put into it, the more amperage you have to flow right down that voltage.
This guy right here, man. This guy right
here. He nails it on the head right there.
Yep. Holy shit, that's awesome. Voltage and amperage. You're so right. Man, you were so freaking right.
Ohm's law for life.
Badass, man. Hey, Michael, do you have those sketches nearby?
Yes.
This is pretty cool. Michael's been doing some schematics of magic when it comes to like mass programming and stuff like that. Anyway, show us what you got. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to explain it without confusing everybody. I get it, so hopefully y'all get it too. James talks about capacitance and the body's capacitance, and that kind of got me thinking. That kind of steered me toward this course. Well, let me just, okay, here's a schematic, right? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's backwards or not, but you
Nope,
got your
it's
power
good.
source. You got your power source. You have your diodes. You have your capacitors, and you have your load right there on the end. The
Little
output.
resistance.
So I was kind of thinking, since the human body is capable of holding a capacitance, well, I mean, so is the reputation of people. You're able to hold a charge through garnering reputation, whether it be good or bad, because capacitors have the ability to charge themselves, not only on positive, not just from one charge, but from both charges, positive and negative. You want to look at either of those as a charge. So if somebody's getting good PR or bad PR, either PR is charging the reputation either way. So what I was thinking is, you need a power source first to just power the whole thing, to kind of power the process. And
Ego.
Can you hold that up again? Do you have an anode on it?
An anode. Well, I mean,
because I can physically put this to you. There's cathode and anode, and then but your blood and whatnot is your fluid that is flowing through, and your capacitor is your salt. Just like a battery, like the electrolytes in a battery is what's holding your charge. There's a cathode, anode, and your fluid that lets it pass, and it's the salt electrolytes that's working as your capacitor.
Yes, your
Damn, that's awesome.
Being there on capacitors.
Yeah, this is the schematic, guys.
So
this schematic has a multi-threaded purpose, because the moment you can start tangibly picturing plasma, the moment you can start tangibly picturing prana, is the moment that you can see it into the world. And so by looking at what Ben's saying and Michael's saying, and seeing this as an electrical circuit, you're literally creating all the necessary circuitry for the magic to work even more clearly than it has been before. This is going to jack your belief that much more, because you're looking at it as an electrical system. It's freaking brilliant. By the way, the 40-minute time thing has been revoked. Zoom said, here's a free gift. We're not limiting you to 40 minutes. So, anyway.
Cool.
Let me see if I can explain.
That's the magic right there, baby.
Let me see if I can run through this whole thing and explain it. You see right here, you have your power source. The power source, I think, is the state, or what we could use the state as a power source in this situation. And what the state does is they create a back and forth, a struggle between people, the left and right. Like James talks about the two towers, the two poles. They kind of get people to move back and forth against each other. And this back and forth movement is an alternating current. You've got an exchange of current between people. So you've got this sort of alternating current between left and right, the two poles, the two towers. And so you're creating a power source for yourself, an AC, an alternating current power source. Or if you want to look at it as an alternating pranic source. And so you've got this power source here, and you begin to hook up the circuit. And this is a voltage doubler circuit. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the voltage and amplify it. So in the amplification process, you've got these diodes and you've got these capacitors. And what these diodes stand for is, I think, is the diodes act as, or the media acts as the diodes. So you have a positive, you have you have a positive side and a negative side, or just like Benjamin was talking about, an anode and cathode. And so these diodes decide what current is let through and what current isn't, just like the media does. The media decides what passes for news and what doesn't pass for news. And so it lets only certain news pass, and it reaches the capacitors. And when it lets the current pass, it reaches the capacitor, it charges the capacitor up. So in that case, it would be somebody like, I don't know, Bill Gates, or this Marina woman that we've been hearing a lot about in the news with her little rituals.
Yep.
And so they both get, people support them, and then a lot of people don't support them. They get bad press and they get good press, but it doesn't matter, because good and bad press, positive and negative, both charge a capacitor. So the capacitors get charged, and as these capacitors get charged, when this current alternates and shifts the other direction, these capacitors release the charge. These capacitors release the charge and discharge them across a load, and the load being, in this case, a population, a group of people, a subset. It doesn't matter. Whatever your intended target is, that's where you direct the energy. And so, yeah, a voltage doubler circuit. And then I got there's also, I mean, these are basic generic circuits, and this is a voltage multiplier circuit. So you can see, you can start to add the diodes in and add the capacitors in, and the capacitors could be anybody, and the diode could be any news source. And then depending on the last one in the chain, they have the ability or the power to direct it and discharge the energy across whatever group of people or demographic they choose.
Through ritual, right? Through ritual. That's
yeah,
what they're doing with all
right. This schematic is basically a ritual. It's just sort of it's a visual representation, I guess, of the social network that people create in order to move power through the population in order to affect certain change, whatever change that may be.
Hell yes. And let me just say that this also explains why the lies have to be seedy and dripping and so strong, because you need that passion to push that. The passion is literally the amperage, or probably the amperage, I guess, of that circuit, is how passionate people are about Pizzagate, how much they hate Hillary Clinton, how much they desperately have to have a wall right now. That is electricity, right? That's high voltage electricity. And you're going to need that if you're going to capacitate something, which really does explain why the lies are so bad, why the strife is so bad. They have to have you in strife and hating the government to generate the freaking electricity for it. It's freaking brilliant. Yep. This explains the Mason-Dixon line. This explains the left and the right. This explains every single thing that they've done where they've created a dipole, basically turning us into capacitors, human fucking batteries of belief prana that flows through the circuit that get triggered when that Dr. Ford chick comes up and goes, "Oh, he took me upstairs and he threw me on the bed, and then it was just my hippocampus, my liver. That's how you open the circuit. That's the potentiometer, right? And you fucking turn that up, and there's no more resistance now, is there? It's fucking flow. It's time to flow. And that's how you do it, man. These are high Wizard of Oz. And Michael, you just put it on paper. This is gorgeous what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, it's the literal Matrix. It's the movie The Matrix. They're using people as power sources. And
that's great stuff, man. That's great stuff.
I mean, I know you talk a lot about Q, James. And I mean, if you even want to look at Q this way, I mean, another function of capacitors is that they filter AC current. They can act as filters. So you can stick a capacitor right here on the end, right in front of the load, and you could ground that capacitor. You could stick the other side of the capacitor to ground, and that other capacitor being Q. So you could put the capacitor Q in there, and then you could filter out all that extra noise that you wanted to, all that extra oscillating noise that's in the circuit. You could filter that out, and I think that's what Q is, man. They just stuck Q in there to filter out all that extra power that was going to be there had they not thrown Q in there.
Yep. I think you're right. I think you could even, It
So-
actually doesn't matter. You're so right. Go ahead, Brian.
So what I like is that most people can't understand that that the negative and the positive, whether it's flowing either way, it will actually function as a charge. Most people don't realize that with electricity, but if you look at British cars, any English car, they're actually a positive ground. So the way electricity functions is it's actually a loop. And so it has to be a loop between the power source and the ground. And where the load comes out is always in the middle of that. So it doesn't really matter which way it's going, and as long as you're grabbing out of it, doesn't even really matter.
Yes.
There are two different levels of magic we've discussed here, and we've skipped over one because this is like high level zeitgeist magic is what Michael's showing us, like the magic of the group mind, the group think, all that plasma.
Like Super Bowl halftime show magic.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the way to say it. And then you have your own body's magic, which is Benjamin really just like ran by on a motorcycle and just barely skimmed the surface of when he was saying about the body and the salts and stuff. But Benjamin, would you mind going into that more? Do you feel like going into that more?
Well, now that we have more than 40 minutes, when I was told 40 minutes, a skim was all that I thought I could get out. So when you're looking at magic, anytime that you're doing it, you need to understand that there's three levels. There's the etheric level, the earth level, and then the dense level. So no matter how you're looking at it, when you are doing your planning or your coordinating, that's going to be your oil level or your etheric level. And you're going to want, that's where you're talking about making your plans. That is the engineer mind. When I say three levels, I also say three minds. So your engineer mind, that is going to make the plans. That's going to be your timing of the event. Everything that you can think about it, every bit of intention, every bit of idea that you can put into that is going to be your etheric level. Then your dense level is going to be your actually doing it. When you're talking about like the way a man is made, your Odin mind is your spirit mind. Your dense mind is your walking mind, your animal power. So that means you're going to have to actually get out and do things. That's how you're going to speak to your salt mind, because your salt mind does not speak in English. So when you
say dense, what do you mean exactly? When you're saying, can you elaborate on what that means exactly? Just
so
that word dense.
Our plane, as you can look out and see it, has three different levels. There's the level that we live on. Anything below us, it gets too dense. It's the earth actually gets more compact, more pressured, more dense.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I got you.
So that is the dense side. And as you get up etheric, you literally, I mean, that's the whole thing. Everybody, the metaphysical matches the actual world. If your philosophy does not pan out in real time in the real world, then you need to ditch that shit. So the etheric, you're talking about your oil mind. That is, as you get more and more etheric, now eventually you can't survive again. The entire atmosphere gets too thin. You can't breathe anymore. This is ether. Now, as your body breaks down, you've got an oil side. So the oil is your etheric. That's gonna, when fire hits it, that's gonna rise and turn into gas. You've got a salt side. Your salt is your dense. When you hit that with fire, that's gonna glow and come together and get harder and more solid. And then you've got your earth level, which is where we live, which is carbon, water, and cellular material. Cellular material is like cellulite, cellulose, the egg, the shell that all the rest of this happens in, that the carbon and the water reside in, and then your salt and your earth, the epitome things of you. But if I took every single one of you, and I took Tyr, my dog, since this is mandate, got to have Tyr, and which Lindsay Sherman, yep, it's Tyr, and I took all these things, and every single one of them, we would have that white ash cellular material, the carbon, and the water. The only true difference between you and a plant, a dog, a cat, any life on this plane is the oil and the salts. The rest of it, I can burn it down into a pile. It will all be the same damn thing. It's all carbon-based life. So now when we're talking to the carbon-based life, that's where we're talking to our things on this plane, where I'm doing this action, I'm speaking out loud, I'm doing all these things right here with this body, with this ego. That's what the ego is. The ego is the thing that gets burnt out by the fire, the thing that you actually are not. Because the oil and the salt are the two things that are truly you. When you die, whether you go through the alchemical process or you die just because you fall over and die, the oil's going to rise up and evaporate out. The water or the salt is going to sink down and fall out, and the earth is going to return to itself. It's just going to be carbon, water, and cellular material that's going to be reused like Legos, straight up. So when you're doing a magical ritual, these are the things that you need to understand. And then to make it even more powerful, then you start taking things like the sky clock into account. Would I plant a seed right now? Yes. This is the time for me to plant seeds, which makes an excellent time for this ritual that for James, that Joe, for you guys to start this type of ritual. This is the spring, the return of the masculine. The sun came back. Masculine power is here. This is the time to plant a seed. Would I plant a seed in December? No, not so much. So that same thing applies when you're doing a ritual. Every bit of intention, every bit of idea, if I'm doing a ritual today, it's going to be stuck right in my craw that right now is the time to plant seeds, and I want the power to suck in and the life to just boil and build until that thing explodes out. That's what I want right here, right now. So that's part of it. And then when you're talking about the dense side, going below yourself dense, understanding that there's power spots on the earth. It doesn't take much to get a set of oh shit, what are they called with the sticks?
Dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods. Jesus. It doesn't take much to get a set of dowsing rods. You hold them as straight as you can. You walk around. You can and just hold them straight, and you'll find open and closed spots. You'll find different power points around your land. And always try to do these things. You're going to find that trees and plants and whatnot, they follow those spots. So going to groves makes it real easy. You start putting as much of these things together, understanding that if I'm doing it with the study and my time, I'm putting my etheric mind into it. I'm making a ritual. I'm putting all this time and thought into it. I'm going out and I'm doing the work. I'm collecting the materials. I've got my sacred staff that I made from my land and carved and took all that time. And I've got my runes and I've got all my other things, and I've set up the circle and I've set up the ceremony and I've done all these things, telling my dense mind it's time to go. That's just like when a prey runs by your dog. No words, that salt side took over. Like, oh shit, it's time to go. Time to chase something down. The dog doesn't even know why it's doing it. It just does it. You need to speak to that side. Get in touch with it. And that's what you're doing. You're setting up the stage, letting that dog know that prey is there and getting ready to run. It's time for you to kick that amperage power in. And you, the contractor, the ego on this plane, you are the one putting this together. You are the beautiful thing that's making all of this happen. So when you're doing a ritual, that's what you put into it. All of those pieces, all of it.
So Ben, can I pause you for a second? I told you I was gathering these magical items, right? When James sent me this here, something happened. And it was all of a sudden I'm coming up with all these rituals in my mind. Or you would say it starts off in the etheric, right? And we work our way down to the dense. But I was kind of kicking myself because I gathered all these materials and it didn't happen. I didn't do it. And it's a beautiful ritual too. Should I scrap it and just wait for the next inspiration? Or like you said, you just got to get out there and do it. I fell short somewhere.
That's almost everybody in this time, and that's part of this time that we're in. We're in a time of high ether. We're in a time where everybody's all about these wonderful ideas, but nobody goes out and does them. Nobody goes out and weighs them. So that's where you need to get it. The snakehead needs to bite the tail. The future writes the past. You have the idea. Now you need to reach down and pull that down and get to it. And you know what? I can't even tell you whether you're going to like the ritual or not because you haven't tasted it. You've come up with the recipe for pudding, and then now you're trying to judge the pudding without tasting it. You got to go put the dents into there and get the supplies, put it together, and then stick that shit in your mouth. And right then you'll know, won't you?
Nice.
Yeah, I got it. This is the perfect example of harmonic resonance again. And it's on 3 different levels. As I said with the mask today, that you're saying different things with the mask. Benjamin is hitting the land with his staff. He said something very important. He said, "This was carved from the land where I live." And that is how he is tapping in to the soil. He has set a magical root. He's connecting his wire to power, and it's going into the ground, and he touches that staff. And that's the second octave. If you play on the guitar, if you hit it just right, there's a second octave you hear, but you didn't play it. That's what Benjamin's doing there. And then how he holds the staff. Is he holding it right side up? Is he holding it right side down? That itself becomes its own diode, where is the power going to go this way or is the power going to go that way? What we're doing here, gentlemen, is literally building consciousness node by node, neuron by neuron. We are seeing our harmonic ability of tapping into the soil. And we will find that there are harmonic node points that will appear above our fucking heads because we said something 19 times or because we held the staff that came from the land, not just any staff. And we have to fuck up right now. You have to go out and fuck up. You have to go out there and try a ritual and sacrifice something that meant a lot to you and just totally feel like, well, that didn't work. Fuck. Or it blew up in my face or it was a total dud. If you find yourself in doubt, it means you have a short in your circuit. Just like Michael. Michael drew his spell on paper and he goes, here's my spell. Wait a minute. The diode doesn't match up. I'm going to need a resistor here to block this back current. That's what we are doing. We are living electricians building with magic. We need sigils. We need physical objects in the land to hold our intentions. Your intentions, just like your adrenals or an antenna, your intentions can be placed in the physical world, into objects, into the vortex that Benjamin stomps out. He's creating a geometrical intention inside. There's an electrical moving vortex now that's constantly spinning.
Do you see that, Ben? That's my first sigil.
Love it. Beautiful.
The Wheel of Pain from Conan. The Wheel of Pain. That's what I thought of when I first saw it.
Yep. That's what started it all.
Right on.
This is great. I don't even have to say anything, but the node thing, definitely. When you gave me that silver round, James, back in New York, when we did that mountain hike, You know, you wanted to do that ritual with the birch bark.
Yep.
Oh, we missed a chance. You know,
Oh, I love it with the
so
birch
many of
bark
those.
because birch is very ceremonial.
Oh, yeah.
Birch, when you look at like Hollywood movies, the stuff that has all the little of birch is the fire starter, baby. That's it.
Yeah, it's what all you're seeing, Aaron, is that in New York we were budding magicians, which means we're not producing a shitload of pollen. We're just producing a little bit, and the magic bees are coming around going, hey, look at that. This guy's producing pollen. Man, last year he didn't produce this at all. In fact, what he thought was a staff was he would, pick up his favorite stick. He didn't know where the fuck it came from, and drive across the country and wonder why it didn't work. He held it upside down half the time when he was causing a positive spell and up and right side the other way. And fuck, man, he didn't know what the fuck he's doing. Man. I tell you, then he broke it and he pretends like it's not broken. What the hell's wrong with this guy? And now it's like, look at that fucker go. Look, he's making electricity. We are learning how to walk, gentlemen. We are giants that have been crawling, that have learning how to walk. And Benjamin is the first in our class. He's been up for a while now and he's tall as fuck. And we're like, don't you fall on me, fucker. Don't you fall on me. And he's going to fall on you. He's going to smash his knee. He's going to go through his own rituals like all of us do. And
well, here's one, and I'll share it. It's like when we did the RX Only Picture Show with Tracy Twyman. I think the first episode, I was like, oh my God, these guys they're working with clay. That was Maddie and SB. So the next show, that next week, I got me a block of clay, and I started making the only thing I can think to make, and that was runes. My wife bought me a rune book. And it was magical. It was healing. There was things going on personally in my life, and so yeah, that's that budding. But I think we're a little bit selling ourselves short here, James. We've done some amazing things. I mean, look what Andrew's done and you guys and all that stuff. So some of the things I've been thinking about with sacrifice is empire. Like, what's the best representation for empire that I can incorporate into a sacrifice?
Absolutely.
Because I am a and I'm going to cut ties with it once and for all, because to me, it seems like with everything that's going on, they're very hungry. They're like an addict. They've done so much dope. Their tolerance is so high. They're reaching their end. This is it, buddy. You've got two alternatives. You either can accept help from us or you're a goner, but I want to separate my ties from this very destructive thing. You know what I mean? I'm trying to kind of look at it like working with an addict, but
the archetype is tower, Aaron.
Burn your couch.
I destroyed my internet. Did you see it on my my YouTube channel? I drug my router out and I axed it. I did. My wife wasn't happy, but it's been great the last week and a half since it's been gone.
Well, the archetype is tower. That's going to be Babylon. That's going to be empire.
Yeah.
And the breaking of the tower is the archetype that I think most represents Noli Bab, not Babylon, but Noli Bab. Yeah.
Maybe something you could do, Aaron, is build a bonfire, build it really tall like a tower. That's kind of what I did about a week ago. I took 19 logs and stacked them all the way up and then lit that whole thing on fire, man.
Right on. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that could be an option. I don't know.
No, I like it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So whatever intuitionally
that's good
is my representation of empire, and I've got one. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man,
I mean, literally, I'm working at Bear. I'm there again. I'm working at Bear. I'm at the executive office, and this whole thing's kicked off, and they're doing what they do. They're telling us how to work and all that stuff. I'm a very independent, masculine man. What we do in our work, in my company, Arrow Boring, we know how to handle ourselves. What we do is dangerous. We know what to do. But here they come telling us we got to wear all these masks. They're handing us contracts, COVID-19 stuff. I won't even touch it. I'm like, get away. I'm not making a contract with you. But when James, what was it that morning? I was talking to my foreman. He's the owner's grandson. He's 26, and he's always coming to me about philosophy, alchemy, and stuff. So I started talking to him about the two towers. You know, right there in front of the executive parking, they've got these two towers set up in stone, and on each tower, one says life, one says science, and all these different languages, and it goes down the row. You can see the video. I put it on my YouTube channel. But anyway, I'm talking to Ricky, his name is, about it, and we're laughing about it, and he wants to know more. So we go to lunch, and guess what James is talking about? He strikes up a live stream. He's talking about the two towers. You know, that's for real. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're tapped in. The nodes are happening. Mm-hmm. And so another couple days later, I'm doing my 19 stomps right there at Bear. I consider that a fatal blow. They drop their guard. They close the doors. No one's there, but I am. So when I did that little, you know, calling up the Titans and the Giants, that's for to take them out once and for all.
Good stuff.
But that's why I'm there. What am I doing there? When this thing kicked off, I got sent to a new job. I went with another company because I was laid off. It was at Brentwood High School. It's this 120-year-old school. They're doing a rehab. Anyhow, it was their chemistry labs. So we're demoing their chemistry labs. Now I got all this chemistry beakers and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, what can I do with this? And I'm like, Ben, give me something. Give me some first experiment, something I can do with it. But everybody was talking about the 5G in schools. They weren't putting 5Gs in schools because it's already there. I saw it.
It's been here for a while, guys. I hate to break it to you, but
yeah,
5G's been here for a long time. I mean, it's probably already causing a lot of these problems, but it's still going up, but it ain't like they stopped the country just to roll that shit out. It's been here for a couple years now, at least.
Full disclosure, guys, my router's running 5G right now.
No, I have a router that runs 5G and it's amped up too. It's not hooked up right now, but it's a LAN router for 5G, not a WAN one. So, but the thing with 5G is they have to really jack up the freaking power on that for it to be. It would be less harmful than 4G unless it's like super jacked up, right? I mean,
yeah, and then
the mesh that because it has to mesh so much, that concerns me.
Freaking love it. Exactly. Well, that's the problem that people don't understand. That's the problem that people don't understand is the higher they jack up the power, the shorter the amount that it carries. It gets more laser-like.
Yeah.
So they have to put a whole lot more repeaters. Like, because for myself, full disclosure, I kept driving until I had 2 bars on my phone, and then I pulled over at the park. So
nice.
You're going to have to – that's part of why they need to push everybody into these metro areas, because people like me, they're going to have repeaters so freaking often to try and get to me, and half those repeaters are going to be doing nothing but hitting cows.
Yeah.
Yeah. The network has a big part to play in it when they start putting this stuff up everywhere. Because I think that I don't think it might not. They haven't even studied 5G really. I can't really find anything where they've done any extensive studies on it as far as health's concerned. But I do know that if you start putting up a bunch of these things everywhere within close distances to each other, there's got to be some sort of resonance effect that's going to happen. Almost like it's almost like a coil, like a coil or a choke. It's an electronic component. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of this before and might even know how it works, but a coil is just a straight wire that's been coiled up, and it's wrapped around a certain core, whether it be an iron core or it's just air core. And and what happens is
it's a magnet.
You might know this already, but when you apply current through a wire, you develop an electrical field around that. And so when you take a coil and you coil it up and you stick those coils right next to each other, those magnetic fields interlace and they have a multiplying effect. And so you've got this big electromagnetic field that grows around it. And so that kind of so if you have a lot of, my point is, if you have a lot of 5G transceivers out there, all close together to one another, I would think that at some point there would be some sort of resonance effect happening there. No telling how that could affect.
Hey, you're talking like a worldwide Tesla death bell right there. That's what you just described.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, though, in order to have all these nodes, in order to have them all and actually have them powered on, they're going to have to be low voltage devices, I think. I don't think you're going to be able to the power out requirements for the amount of these things that you're going to have is going to be pretty massive, right? So it's going to put a lot of strain on the infrastructure unless you make them low voltage devices. And, you know, Michael, you sound like an electrician. So what happens with a low voltage device, if you push the power up too high, it just fucking blows up. So, I mean, how far are they really going to be able to push it? Probably far enough, but, you know.
Yeah. And then also another question is, like, how are they going to throttle these things? Like, what sort of frequencies are they going to, I mean, these frequency bands have just encompass a range of frequencies. So no telling how, you know, they could, you know, run some of these transceivers on a certain particular frequency and focus on that, amplify that. And there's no telling what sort of effect that might have. No telling how they could. I'm just concerned about the throttling and the ability to resonate certain frequencies. That's what concerns me.
Because if I'm a node, and I am, like we're talking, it's emotion, love, anger. You know, could they charge these with emotion? Is this what it's really about?
Well, yeah, they've been doing that the entire time. Mm-hmm. Why do you think cities are gridded out the way that they're gridded? Why do you think the traffic jams happen in the pattern that they do? That is all a grid that you've been charging your whole life and traveling through in a certain pattern.
Well, propaganda itself is a form of EMF. So these signals do have an emotion to them, Aaron. The emotion is either fear, pain, or shame, or all kinds of things. The propaganda is an electromagnetic interference. We are subjected to it. We're being moved by it right now as we talk. And what I found profound is in the 9/11 ceremony, Building 7 was actually a sacrifice. You have to have a third, Benjamin will tell you that. You have a middle sacrifice, something is sacrificed between the two towers. And I'm telling you guys, that's what I think 5G is all about. It is showing us that once we realize this, it's showing us that what 5G is this world of Babylon that has real threats to us. And therefore we destroy the tower. We sacrifice the tower, which is symbolic of Babylon itself. And that's what's happening right now in the apocalypse. All of us are planting gardens.
Yes.
We're saying, fuck you, Babylon. Right now, we are sacrificing this tower right now as we talk, because we're striking it down with, hey, well, it could work this way. And some of us are saying, no, it's still good. Some are saying, no, it's bad. No, it doesn't matter. We're going to sacrifice. We are sacrificing it. That's what's happening right now, whether we want it to or not. And it's beautiful. That's what makes it such a great apocalypse, because anyway, it's profound. It's
I understand that.
Magic here.
Excellent.
If you can resonate something that taps in on that, it's a great time to do it, because you'll be able to get a double, triple, quadruple bounce from that notion. 10 to the 12th, baby. That's what you want. 10 to the 12th. If you can get that.
I better stop having sex with my wife. Otherwise, I'll wind up with 4 kids next time.
Triplets.
Fuck, I read 2, man. So at the same time.
I have one reservation when it comes to experimenting with my own personal ritual and all that. And that's, I don't know if there's a fail-safe in it, but it would be to do something that would, I'm trying to word it right, not just harms another person, but, that black magic is to get someone to do something against their own will, or misdirect your intention into somebody who's not I don't know, woke, more profane individual. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a magic cream pies. I that's what I've been calling the cream pie, man. Is you when you're in a trusting relationship with someone,
Yeah.
you can put a cream pie in their face if you do it just right. If you do it just right. And
I did it to my wife right after we talked about it, because she's a nurse. She's an RN. She's at SLU. And James, it worked. But for the first few days, it was not, I did not, it didn't go very well. You know? But
Yeah, that's your sacrifice.
There you go.
That is your sacrifice. If this was not going to cause you issues, then it would have just been easy. Then what were you even fucking worried about it for? That is the sacrifice that you're going through on it, man.
Yeah, this is real magic. This is real magic. Just like the circuit Michael drew. This is real magic. It's gonna take 3.3 volts, not 0.6. You know, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna burn, and it's a sacrifice.
All right.
I mean, at the end of the day, Tony Hawk, when he wanted to do his triple Superman flip jiggy thing, how many times did he fall down and break his leg, bust a rib, do whatever? He hurt himself real. That is, if you want real things, you need to put out real pain. You need to have real suffering. That is, even if it's to go to college and you've spent every night this week, 20 hours a day studying just so you can pass this exam. That, you think that's not pain? That's horrifying. Anything that you truly want that's a big deal, expect to pay the pain.
Calories, magic calories.
Yep, that's what I was saying earlier. With the persistence, always having something that's going to stand in your way.
Yeah, and maybe you could even come at it from the aspect of tapping into past calories used in a way that, like James was talking about earlier, about having compassion for people. Is tapping into that past pain that you experienced to reach that level of compassion that you can then feel for that other person. And extending that compassion, extending that understanding, it sort of kind of, I guess, paces the other person up to your level, where they're residing in a fearful state, a lower state, you're resonating in a higher state, but not so much higher they can't relate, because you can still relate to them and you're still in witness to them. So you're just, I guess, one step above, and then you being there kind of helps pace them up to you, I guess, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not explaining it very well, but there it is.
I get it.
Compassion, understanding, and acceptance.
Yeah.
That's what people want.
Right.
These are new dimensions that we're seeing. Magic is a dimension, and it's had a little piece of tape that's been covering it the entire time, and that tape's called Disney. That's all it took. That's all it took to block you from looking into this dimension. And you realize that it's real now. You realize that this is all about circuitry. This is all about electricity, intent, and belief, and ego. And that's why you need all this power. You were a part of the soil, which means you can pull electricity from her, but you got to do it right. You have to do it right. That's what we're doing. That's really what the apocalypse is all about.
And if you think that Disney was just games, then explain to me why he spent so much time with Wernher von Braun, and why that man is the head of everything you've ever heard, was the head of everything you've ever heard of for space, for what we've been fed our entire lives.
Man, Disney owns like 33%. Of course, that's the number too. They own 33% or something of the content, of the media content the entire world consumes. Yeah. Between Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, ESPN, history, blah 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 blah.
And they bought all those franchises that we grew up liking just so they could fucking destroy the archetypes.
Yeah. That's not about money. That's not about money.
No, it's not about money at all. If it was about money, they'd make good stories and not just rehashing old comic stories and telling them sloppier and race changing and taking all of the masculine traits out of every fucking story that they do. Except every one of them.
Yeah, they're
They
prana.
said they
Disney.
dropped the ball on that Mandalorian story. Have anybody seen that? The
It wasn't
Mandalorian?
terrible. It's probably the best
No.
Star Wars to come out since the 70s, but
No, I haven't since Disney took over. I basically bailed. I've watched every one of them in the movie theaters up until the last couple, and said nope, done. Because like you guys said, it's not about the money.
Yeah. That's what the tower's all about, I think. They're prana collecting. When you have a tower that sticks up that high, it's collecting the prana of all that belief. It's a collector. And that's why we're fucking bringing it down, guys. Decentralization is knocking down the fucking towers. Each of us become our own legends. We become our own broadcasting station. That's what has to happen. And that's what they want to happen. When I say they, I'm talking about, man, they're eagles. We are seagulls. And I'm telling you, man, the Eagles got no beef with us becoming Eagles. I'm telling you, they don't. From their perspective, it's more Eagles they can fuck, like make sweet love to, and whatever. All it's going to do is make them higher, man. It's just going to make them feel better too. We are percolating. We have to percolate. And when we do, we're connecting this massive, massive power. We don't have to do shit. It's happening. This is it. This is it right now. And we're just completing the circuit, we're just learning how, hey, does this hurt? Holy shit, I felt that. Yeah, do that again next time. Yeah, but hey, don't make sure you're wearing pants next time. That's bad. That kind of thing.
No pants.
Look, Mom.
We don't wear pants during live stream.
I'm not.
No.
Well, I mean, shorts count, right? But
I mean, I'm literally in bed.
it's all good. I didn't even know. I'm sorry I was late, guys. I thought James said he was going to postpone it, and I was cooking and everything, so I had to stuff my face and hang out with the kids for a few minutes. So,
where's everybody's location? I'm in the Midwest, St. Louis, south of it. Just curious.
Tampa,
I'm
Florida.
outside. I'm outside Denver.
Nice.
Got Denver.
Who's outside Denver?
I am Salvatore.
All right.
Nice.
I'm in Louisiana.
Nice. My uncle lives there. I'm in Northern California, way northern. Not the Bay like the news calls Northern California, which is 3 hours south of me. I'm in Northern California.
I'm in
like
Appalachia. I'm in the land called Katua in Appalachia, formerly the state of North Carolina.
So we're from coast to coast, aren't these nodes?
Yep.
I'm in the
With the
Midwest.
middle covered also.
That's a good base.
Yeah, in fact, I was thinking, like, to really complete a proper neuron, to have like an actual stomp, I'm going back to what Benjamin was talking about, is if geographically we were to assemble in such a way where we were creating a geographic circle, we could each say something that would cause that jolt. Basically, this is like the wave at the crowd, if you're watching a football game and everyone starts the wave. It's sort of like that, but like over a cross-country sort of thing. It's what I'm getting at is that we are neurons, and we're just realizing it. There's something to this, and I don't want it to be one giant centralized neuron. I want it to be 19. Like it's like when a node gets to be about 10, it automatically starts to think about which of us wants to branch out, which of us feels the influence to maybe start again. And then by the time it gets to 19, that there's sort of a mitosis that's happening inside of these neurons, inside of these campfire neurons. This is a formula for growth. It's an opportunity for really cool shit to happen that has nothing to do with me or anyone else. It's more about just creating these neurons. And I would hope that they would be really different, and just some would be really fucked up, like, dude, remember those dudes from Kentucky? Holy shit, man, those guys were fucking nuts. Like it's a beautiful, I'd rather it be that way. You know what I mean? I'd rather it be that way. I'd rather these neurons have their own flavor so that they're Cajun or Appalachian.
Bioregions.
you know?
Bioregional.
Yeah, exactly. Like a craft beer, you know?
Mhm.
Different places have different flavors of craft beer. Different places have flavors of cannabis. And they're a reflection of what's going on around there. And that's really what this is all about. All of our magic's going to come from tapping into the soil that way, because it's going to give us our natural flavor, our natural style. And the whole thing becomes the people of the Longhouse, the Iroquois Confederacy, just an extension of that. It's just a reawakening of that same model that they had. This idea of government as a tapestry of agreements. That what we've done here is we've made government in one way. We have a unanimous agreement to sacrifice our time right now and to listen to each other speak. And that is the powwow. That is the meaning of government, and it's nothing else. It is nothing but the neurological connection we have between us. It's electrical connection that we have. And keep in mind, neurons are around the heart. I don't mean to keep you thinking about the brain. There are neurons in your heart. It's a much deeper thing than this isn't about fucking brain. Anyway.
I guess there is benefit in the overlapping energies of things like the heart and the brain.
Don't forget the neurons coming out of the gut, the masculine root.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And yep. It's almost like it's almost sort of like spheres of energy just sort of overlapping and then creating this channel for energy to flow. Almost sort of like
oh yeah,
the two spheres of consciousness that overlap, and then in between they create the Vesica Pisces, and inside you've got this cross, and I guess the Vesica Pisces sort of is a representation of the feminine womb, of the womb, and within the womb you've got this intersecting of consciousnesses, and
wow, man,
sort of brings forth new life.
That's the body, the living cross, right there.
Yeah, the cross. The cross is the intersecting of consciousnesses, which lead you to a different sort of realm, or a different form of consciousness.
That's mitosis of consciousness right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The consciousness split, and there's another created from there.
Yeah, things happen at intersections, man. It's like it's like Thoth in the Emerald Tablets talks about when he was. I might butcher this, so I'm going off of memory here, but when he talks about running from the gatekeepers, the hounds that guard the gates, yeah, he said he had to move at circles. He had to move in circles to escape the hounds, because the hounds were only able to move at angles. That's the way they were able to move through different consciousnesses. But in order to escape them, he was able to move in circles or in a spiral. And in moving in a spiral, you're moving off of that path of that angle, and you're basically sort of phasing in and out of dimensions. So you're able to phase out and sort of disappear from the hounds, sort of a way of escaping.
Man, this just blows my freaking mind. It makes me think about electromagnetic motor, and your will. As you're spinning, you're creating the spin of the magnets that's causing the motor to spin. Basically, we are so much more electrical than we think we are.
iPhone overheated.
Hang on. Do you guys want to call it a session? It's been.
Can you hear me?
An hour and a half. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we got you.
My phone overheated. California. So
yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on for sure. That was a good time.
Those
good
three
stuff.
overlapping fields. That's your three minds. Your salt, your oil, and your earth mind. So that's exactly what I'm always talking about. That is exactly right. Whether you're looking at it as the three neuron bundles, oil, the salt, and the earth. No matter how you're looking at it, it's them three levels, 3 planes.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. You guys see that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wait, say something again so we can see it again.
Ellis, he painted this 2 days ago. He goes, Dad, I'm gonna paint a tornado, and I was like, okay.
It's fantastic.
Good old tornadoes.
Man, I've been blown away by the Wizard of Oz is so just heavily referenced so much right now through this apocalypse. The whole Wizard of Oz theme is really strong, man. Really, really strong.
Everybody's doing a great job, being authentic, tapping in. James, I love you. Thank you so much, dude.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
Word.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Keep grinding, James.
Right
James,
on.
you are Tavern. Keep bringing us all together here, man. It's the trick.
It was excellent talking to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you guys. I
Absolutely.
know I didn't say much, but I appreciated learning about all the stuff you guys, how you see magic and everything. I don't really I practice it, but it comes naturally. Like I've never like stopped to think about it. So it's great to hear you guys actually prosing. So
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like all new stuff. I love it. And I'm gonna hit stop on this recording, but I'm looking forward to us doing it again real soon. And